Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me now. Life is a journey. It's a road with twists, turns, and crossroads. And sometimes you wonder, am I going the right way? You ask, God, are you leading me? Or am I just wandering? But let me tell you something. God doesn't deal in confusion. No, no. He lays out signs. He whispers in your spirit. He moves in ways you can't always see, but if you pay attention, you'll know. So here it is, 10 signs God is leading you on the right path. There's a kind of peace that doesn't come from the world. It doesn't come from money, success, relationships, or any earthly thing. This peace, it comes from God. It's the kind of peace that doesn't make sense to people looking in from the outside. You could be in the middle of a storm with everything around you crumbling, yet somehow you're calm, somehow you're still standing. And let me tell you, when you feel that kind of peace, when you feel unshaken in the middle of uncertainty, that is not by accident. That is not your own doing. That is God's confirmation that you are exactly where you need to be. See, when God is leading you, his peace follows. The world teaches us that peace comes after the storm. But God's peace exists during the storm. It's not about having perfect conditions. It's about having perfect trust. It's that deep, unshakable feeling inside that says, I don't know how this will work out, but I know God is in control. And when you know that, really know that, fear starts to lose its grip on you. Worry starts to fade. The need to control everything disappears, because you understand that the one who holds the universe together is also holding you together. But let me be real with you. This peace isn't something that just happens. You don't wake up one day and suddenly have unshakable faith. No, it's something God develops in you. It's something he grows in your spirit over time. And most of the time, he builds it in the hard places, in the waiting seasons, in the moments when nothing makes sense. Have you ever noticed how the most faithful people you know aren't the ones who had an easy life? No. They're the ones who walked through fire, through loss, through disappointment, and still chose to trust God. They didn't get their peace from perfect circumstances. They got it from a perfect Savior. So what does this look like in real life? It looks like standing in the middle of uncertainty and still being able to breathe. It looks like losing a job, but instead of falling into despair, you feel a deep, unexplainable knowing that something better is coming. It looks like waiting for an answer, but instead of panicking, you trust that God has already gone before you. It looks like walking through heartbreak, but instead of feeling empty, you feel held. This peace, it's a sign, it's evidence that God is guiding your steps, that he is covering you, that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Now, don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean you won't have moments of doubt. It doesn't mean you won't feel fear creeping in sometimes. We're human, but the difference is when God is truly leading you, fear doesn't own you. It doesn't control you. It may knock on the door, but peace answers first. You'll start to notice that things that used to keep you up at night don't hold the same weight anymore. You won't react to stress the way you used to. You won't fall apart when plans don't go your way. Why? Because you trust that God's plan is better. And that right there, that's the peace that surpasses all understanding. And let's talk about that phrase, peace that surpasses all understanding. What does that really mean? It means that people will look at your life and not understand how you're still smiling. They won't understand why you're not panicking like everyone else. They won't understand why you're still moving forward, still believing, still holding on. And when they ask you, how are you so calm? You'll be able to say, because I know who's in control. Because this peace, it's not man-made. It's not something you can buy, earn, or fake. It's given. It's divine. It's the kind of peace that only comes when you surrender everything, your plans, your fears, your future, to the hands of the one who sees it all. So if you're walking in peace right now, Real, unshakable, undeniable peace. Pay attention. That's God. That's His hand on your life. That's His way of telling you, keep going, keep trusting. You are exactly where you need to be. When God is leading you on the right path, you don't have to force things to happen. You don't have to beg for opportunities. You don't have to manipulate situations to fit your plan. The doors that are meant for you, they will open. Without force, without struggle, without you exhausting yourself trying to pry them open. See, when God has a purpose for you, He makes a way. He removes the roadblocks that don't serve you and aligns circumstances to push you forward. You don't have to chase blessings when you're walking in God's will. Blessings will chase you. Now, that doesn't mean you won't have to put in the work. Faith without works is dead. But what it does mean is that you won't have to knock down doors that were never meant for you in the first place. Have you ever tried to force something that just wasn't working? A job that made you miserable? A relationship that drained you? A plan that no matter how hard you pushed just wouldn't come together? That's because when something isn't aligned with God's will, it will always feel like a battle. It will always take more from you than it gives. But when it's from God, there's grace, there's ease. The door's open, and all you have to do is step through. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking they have to fight their way into their destiny. They think that if something is difficult, it must mean they just need to push harder. But let me tell you something. God's plans for you are not about striving. They're about surrendering. When you try to force something, you're relying on your own strength. But when you trust God's timing, when you wait for His move, you step into opportunities that are far greater than anything you could have made happen on your own. And let's talk about timing for a second, because sometimes the door is right in front of you, but it's not time for it to open yet. And that's where a lot of people struggle. You think God isn't listening, that He isn't moving, but in reality, He's preparing you. If God gave you everything you wanted right now, would you be ready for it? Would you be able to handle the responsibility, the pressure, the growth that comes with it? See, God isn't just interested in giving you things. He's interested in making sure you can keep them. So if a door isn't opening yet, maybe it's not rejection. Maybe it's preparation. When the right door does open, though, oh, you'll know. Because everything will align in a way that only God could orchestrate. You'll look back and realize that every no led you to the right yes. You'll see how every delay was actually protection. You'll understand why things didn't work out the way you planned, because God had something better. And the beautiful thing, when He opens a door, nothing can shut it. No man, no circumstance, no mistake can block what God has ordained for you. So if you're in a season where you're feeling stuck, where doors keep closing in your face, take a step back. Ask yourself, am I forcing something that God is trying to remove? Because the truth is, when God is leading you, He will never need you to fight for something that isn't meant for you. He will guide you to the right opportunities at the right time, and when that happens, you won't have to force a thing. The door will swing open, and all you'll have to do is walk through it. When you're in alignment with God, opportunities come that you didn't expect. Blessings appear that you didn't see coming. And that's when you know you're on the right path. Because when God is moving, there is no struggle, no striving, no need to push. Just faith, just trust, just obedience. And when you move in that, nothing can stop you. When God is leading you on the right path, He doesn't just give you direction. He gives you people, the right people, the ones who will uplift you, challenge you, and help you grow into the person you're meant to be. See, you were never meant to do this journey alone. God places the right individuals in your life at the right time to push you closer to your purpose. And sometimes these people show up when you least expect them. You weren't looking for them, but suddenly there they are. Mentors, friends, partners, and encouragers who seem to align perfectly with where you're headed. That's not an accident. That's divine alignment. But let's be clear, Just as God sends the right people, the enemy will try to send the wrong ones. And that's why discernment is so important. Not everyone who walks into your life is meant to stay. Some people come as lessons, some as distractions, and some as tests to see if you can recognize the difference between a God-sent relationship and a counterfeit connection. Have you ever had someone in your life who drained you, who pulled you away from your purpose instead of pushing you toward it? That's why you need wisdom, because when God is leading you, He won't just bring the right people, He'll also give you the strength to walk away from the wrong ones. Sometimes the right people don't always look the way you expected. You might be looking for support from the people you already know, family, old friends, co-workers. But God, He moves in unexpected ways. He might bring a mentor into your life that changes everything. He might place you in a room with someone who speaks one sentence that shifts your entire mindset. Or He might send you a friend who, in your toughest moments, reminds you of who you are when you've forgotten. Don't be so focused on who isn't there for you that you miss the ones God is sending. And let's talk about relationships for a second. Because when God is leading you, the people around you matter. Your circle affects your future. If you surround yourself with doubters, complainers, and people who lack vision, guess what? That energy will rub off on you. But when you're surrounded by people who have faith, who push you toward growth, who see what God is doing in your life, even when you don't see it yourself, that changes everything. You need people who won't let you settle, people who will call you out when you're slipping, but also lift you up when you're struggling. That's the kind of community God brings when you're walking in His will. But here's the thing. Not everyone can come with you. When you step into a new level, you may have to leave some people behind. And that's hard. There will be times when you outgrow certain relationships and it will hurt. You'll wonder why people who were once so close to you suddenly don't fit anymore. But let me tell you, when God removes someone from your life, don't chase after them. Trust that He is making room for something better. Not because they were bad people, but because they were part of a different season. And if you hold on to people who no longer align with where you're going, you'll delay your own growth. Sometimes God uses people to speak to you. Ever had someone say exactly what you needed to hear at just the right moment? That's not luck. That's God. He places people in your life to confirm things He's already been whispering in your spirit. Maybe He's been telling you to take a leap of faith, and then suddenly someone encourages you to do exactly that. Maybe He's been nudging you to let go of something, and then a friend says something that confirms it. Pay attention to the people He's placing around you, because they may be carrying the answers you've been praying for. When God is leading you, relationships become more than just friendships or connections. They become assignments. Some people will be there to help you, and some you will be called to help. But either way, when you're walking in alignment with God, the right people will show up. The ones who believe in you, who pray for you, who walk with you, not just when things are easy, but when things are tough. And when you see those people entering your life, know this: it's a sign that you're on the right path, a sign that God is moving, and a sign that your purpose is unfolding exactly as it should. When God is leading you on the right path, it doesn't mean the road will be easy. In fact, it's often the opposite. You will face challenges, obstacles, and moments that test your faith. But here's the difference. You may feel stretched, you may feel uncomfortable, but you will not be defeated. That's how you know God is in control. See, when you're outside of God's will, struggles feel heavy. They drain you, break you down, and leave you feeling hopeless. But when you're walking in alignment with God, the struggles don't crush you. They grow you. You feel the pressure, but you also feel God's strength carrying you through. Think about gold. Before it shines, before it becomes something valuable, it has to go through the fire. It has to be refined. The same thing happens when God is preparing you for something greater. The challenges you're facing, they are refining you. They are shaping you into the person God needs you to be for the purpose He has prepared for you. See, if you're never challenged, you'll never grow. If everything always came easy, you wouldn't develop the strength, wisdom, or character required for what's ahead. So if you're feeling stretched right now, if life feels like it's testing you, know that this is part of the process. But here's where people get confused. They think if I'm facing challenges, does that mean I'm on the wrong path? No. In fact, challenges can be a sign that you're on the right path. The enemy doesn't attack people who aren't a threat. If you weren't moving towards something great, if you weren't stepping into the purpose God has for you, the enemy wouldn't bother with you. But because you are stepping into something powerful, resistance comes. And that's why you can't quit when things get tough. You can't let the struggle make you turn back. Because sometimes the very thing you're struggling against is the thing that's building you up. And let's be honest, growth is uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. Stepping into new levels of faith, responsibility, and purpose will stretch you in ways you never imagined. But if God brought you to it, He will bring you through it. He never allows challenges in your life without a reason. He never wastes pain. Every hardship, every obstacle, every season of struggle is doing something in you. It's preparing you, teaching you, equipping you for what's next. So instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Start asking, what is God teaching me through this? Because there is always a lesson in the challenge. One thing you'll notice when you're truly walking with God is that even in the hardest moments, you still feel a sense of strength that isn't your own. You may be tired, but you're still pushing forward. You may be uncertain, but somehow you know God is working. That's how you know you're not alone in this. That's how you know that the challenge is not meant to break you, it's meant to prepare you. God's path isn't always the easiest, but it is always the strongest. It builds you in ways you never expected, and once you come through it, you'll look back and realize that everything you went through was necessary. Think about David before he became king. Before he ever stepped into his destiny, he had to face Goliath. He had to be tested. But what if he had run from that battle? What if he had said, "This is too hard, I must be on the wrong path"? He would have missed his destiny. The same is true for you. The challenges you face today may seem overwhelming, but they are not there to stop you. They are there to elevate you, to prove to you and to everyone watching that when God is for you, nothing can stand against you. So if you feel challenged right now, if life is stretching you, if you're facing obstacles that feel bigger than you, take heart. This is not the end of your story. You may feel the pressure, but you are not defeated. You may feel the weight, but you are not crushed. You are being prepared, refined, and strengthened for something greater. And if you keep pushing forward, if you keep trusting God in the middle of the struggle, you will see that every challenge was actually leading you to something far greater than you ever imagined. When God is leading you on the right path, He doesn't just leave you guessing. He sends confirmation, clear, undeniable signs that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. These confirmations come in different ways. Sometimes it's through a sermon that speaks directly to your situation. Sometimes it's through a conversation with a friend who unknowingly says exactly what you needed to hear. Sometimes it's through scripture that jumps off the page at just the right moment. And sometimes it's simply a deep, unshakable knowing in your spirit that tells you, this is it. That's not coincidence, that's God. Have you ever been struggling with a decision, unsure of which way to go, and then, out of nowhere, you hear the answer repeated over and over? Maybe you're considering a career change, and suddenly, every conversation, every podcast, every message seems to revolve around stepping into something new. Maybe you've been asking God if you should move forward in a relationship, and then out of nowhere, someone shares a testimony that sounds exactly like what you're going through. That's confirmation. That's God speaking. And when you start noticing these patterns, don't ignore them. Lean into them. See, God knows that we need reassurance. He knows that walking by faith isn't always easy. So he gives us little nudges, little reminders that we're moving in the right direction. But here's the key. You have to pay attention. Because God is always speaking, but are you listening? Are you taking the time to notice the signs he's placing in front of you? Or are you too busy doubting, overthinking, and second-guessing yourself? Because sometimes we ask God for confirmation, and he gives it to us over and over, but we still hesitate. We still wait for a louder voice, a bigger sign, when in reality, the answer has already been given. And let's be real. Sometimes confirmation doesn't always look the way we expect. We think it's going to come with flashing lights and a loud voice from heaven saying, "This is the way." But more often than not, confirmation comes in quiet ways. A door that opens effortlessly, a peace that settles in your heart, a divine connection that comes out of nowhere. And sometimes, confirmation comes in the form of a closed door. Yes, that's right. When something you wanted doesn't work out, when a plan falls apart, when a relationship doesn't move forward, that too is God's way of confirming that he has something better. One of the biggest mistakes people make is dismissing confirmation because it doesn't fit their expectations. They pray for clarity, but when God gives it, they ignore it because it's not the answer they wanted. But let me tell you something. When God confirms something, it's not about what's comfortable, it's about what's right. So don't fight against the very thing God is using to direct your steps. Don't ignore the closed doors, the delays, the unexpected shifts, because what you see as a setback might actually be God's way of setting you up for something far greater. Sometimes, confirmation comes through people. Ever had someone randomly speak into your life, telling you something you've been wrestling with in prayer? That's not an accident. God uses people to deliver messages when we need them most. And sometimes, he will even use strangers, someone you just met, someone who has no idea what you're going through, but somehow they say exactly what you needed to hear. That's divine confirmation. That's God showing you, I see you, I hear you, I'm guiding you. So if you keep seeing confirmation everywhere, if the same message keeps showing up, if you feel that unshakable nudge in your spirit, if doors are opening or closing in ways you didn't expect, pay attention. That's not luck. That's not a coincidence. That's God leading you. And when you recognize his confirmation, don't hesitate. Don't second guess. Walk forward in faith, knowing that the path you're on is the one he has set before you. When God is leading you on the right path, there is a peace that settles deep within you. It's not just a momentary feeling of calm, it's an unshakable assurance, a quiet confidence that even in the midst of uncertainty, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. This kind of peace doesn't come from the world. It doesn't come from circumstances aligning perfectly. It doesn't come from everything going the way you planned. No, this peace comes from knowing that God is in control. It's the kind of peace that allows you to walk forward even when you don't have all the answers. Have you ever been in a situation where everything around you said you should be worried, but deep down you weren't? Where people were asking, how are you so calm? How are you not panicking? But you just knew, somehow, some way, everything was going to be okay? That's God. That's his peace. When you're walking in his will, you don't have to carry the weight of figuring everything out. You don't have to stress about every little detail, because you understand that even when things don't make sense, God is working behind the scenes. But let's be real. Peace doesn't mean the absence of problems. It doesn't mean you'll never face challenges or moments of doubt. What it does mean is that even in those moments, your heart is steady. You may not know what's next, but you trust the one who does. And that trust, that's what separates God's peace from the world's version of peace. See, the world's peace is based on conditions. It's based on whether or not things are going smoothly. But God's peace, it's present even when everything around you is chaotic. It's a peace that says, I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know who holds tomorrow. And this kind of peace, it's priceless. You can't manufacture it. You can't fake it. You can't buy it. You can have all the money in the world, all the success, all the relationships you ever wanted, but without this kind of peace, none of it will satisfy. That's why so many people who seem to have it all are still restless. Because real peace doesn't come from what you have, it comes from who you trust. And when you're walking in alignment with God's plan, when you're on the right path, that trust becomes unshakable. One way you know God is leading you is when you stop striving, you stop forcing things, you stop chasing after validation, approval, or control. You just move in faith, and somehow everything starts to fall into place. Not because life is perfect, but because you're no longer carrying burdens that were never meant for you. You release the pressure to make things happen, and instead, you rest in the truth that God is already making a way. That rest, that stillness, that's peace. That's God whispering, "I've got you." And let's talk about the opposite for a second, because when you're not on the right path, you feel it. You feel uneasy. You feel restless. Even if everything looks good on the outside, deep down, something doesn't sit right in your spirit. You can't explain it, but you know that something is off. That's the absence of peace. And that's one of the clearest ways God speaks to us, through discomfort. If you're feeling uneasy about a decision, if your spirit feels unsettled, no matter how much you try to convince yourself otherwise, listen to that. That's God's way of saying, this isn't the path I have for you. So when you experience that unexplainable peace, the kind that makes no sense, the kind that holds you steady in the storm, the kind that allows you to keep moving forward even when you don't have all the answers, know this, it's not an accident. It's not just positive thinking. It's God. It's His way of confirming that you are exactly where you need to be. And when you have that kind of peace, no situation, no setback, no obstacle can take it away. Because when God is leading you, peace isn't just a feeling, it's a foundation. And no matter what comes your way, you'll stand firm, knowing that you are right where you're supposed to be. When God is leading you on the right path, things start happening that you know you couldn't have made happen on your own. Doors open, doors that you didn't knock on, opportunities show up that you didn't chase, and things align in a way that doesn't even make sense. That's how you know it's God. Because when you try to force something, it's exhausting. It feels like an uphill battle. But when God is moving, things fall into place effortlessly. Not because life is perfect, but because His hand is on it. Think about times in your life when you tried to make something work in your own strength. You pushed, you fought, you stressed, but nothing seemed to move. It was like walking against the wind. No matter how hard you tried, you weren't making progress. But then, there are those moments when things just click. You weren't even looking, but the opportunity showed up. You weren't striving, but the right connection happened. You weren't manipulating the situation, but somehow everything aligned. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's God working behind the scenes, making a way where there was no way. And let's be real, sometimes we think we opened the door. We think it was our talent, our connections, our hard work. But when God is truly the one leading you, the doors He opens are ones you know you could never have walked through on your own. The promotion you weren't even qualified for, the job offer that came out of nowhere, the relationship that blossomed at just the right time. That's how you know it wasn't you, it was Him. And when God opens a door, no one can shut it. But here's the thing. When God is leading you, you don't have to force doors open. You don't have to manipulate situations, beg people to see your worth, or stress about making things happen. The right doors will open at the right time, and sometimes God will even open a door you weren't expecting, leading you somewhere you never planned to go. Maybe you thought your life was headed in one direction, but then suddenly an opportunity appears that shifts everything. In those moments, don't resist. lean in, because God's plan is always bigger than what you had in mind. Now here's the hard part. Sometimes God opens a door, but it doesn't look the way you expected. You were praying for a new opportunity and He gave you one, but it's not comfortable. You wanted a new job and He provided one, but it requires you to step out of your comfort zone. You prayed for growth and He gave you an opportunity to be stretched. See, we love open doors, but sometimes they come with new challenges, new responsibilities, and new levels of faith. Just because God opened the door doesn't mean it won't require courage to walk through it. And let's talk about closed doors. Because just as God opens doors, He also closes them. And when that happens, it can be painful. Maybe you wanted that job, that relationship, that opportunity, but God said no, and at the time, it didn't make sense. But later you realized that closed door was actually protection. That closed door was actually redirection. If God didn't open it, trust that He had a reason, because sometimes the thing we're begging for is less than what He has planned for us. And if He closes a door, it's only because He has something better on the other side. So when doors start opening, doors you didn't knock on, opportunities you didn't chase, moments that feel too perfect to be random, pay attention. That's God. That's His favor. That's His way of confirming, this is where I want you to be. And when He opens a door, don't hesitate. Don't let fear stop you from stepping through. Because when God leads you to an open door, He's not just giving you an opportunity. He's inviting you to step into something greater than you ever imagined. When God is leading you on the right path, you grow, and not just in one way. You grow spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and sometimes even physically. You start becoming a better version of yourself. Your mindset shifts, your perspective changes. You begin to handle situations differently. You don't react the way you used to. You don't stress over the things that used to break you. You don't carry the same burdens that once held you down. Why? Because God is molding you, stretching you, and refining you for the purpose He has set before you. Spiritual growth is one of the clearest signs that you are walking in alignment with God's will. When you're on the right path, your faith deepens. You start trusting God more, not just in the good times, but in the difficult times too. You find yourself praying more, seeking Him more, and relying on Him in ways you never did before. You don't just read the Word, you live it. You start applying it to your daily life. You begin to walk with wisdom, with discernment, with a deeper awareness of God's presence. And that's how you know you're moving in the right direction. Because when God is leading, your relationship with Him grows stronger. And it's not just your spiritual life. Your emotional health begins to shift too. You find yourself healing from things you thought you'd never recover from. The bitterness, the anger, the unforgiveness that once controlled you, it starts to fade. You start responding with grace instead of reacting with rage. You start choosing peace over conflict, wisdom over impulse, patience over frustration. And listen, this isn't something that happens overnight. Growth takes time, but when you look back and see how far you've come, you know it's because God has been working in you. Another sign of growth? You no longer seek validation from people. When you're on God's path, you stop depending on others to define your worth. You stop chasing approval. You stop letting people's opinions dictate your decisions. Because now, your confidence comes from who you are in God, not from what people think about you. That's a powerful shift. That's what happens when you start walking in purpose. You no longer waste energy trying to fit in or prove yourself, because you understand that your identity is rooted in something far greater. But let's be real, growth isn't always comfortable. In fact, it rarely is. Sometimes it feels like God is pulling you away from everything familiar. He challenges your old habits, your old ways of thinking, your old patterns. And that process, it's uncomfortable. It requires breaking cycles. It requires stepping outside of what's easy. It requires facing things you've avoided for years. But growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in the stretching. It happens when you allow God to do the deep work within you, even when it's painful. And here's something people don't always realize. Growth also means outgrowing things. And when you're on the right path, you will outgrow certain relationships, certain environments, certain mindsets. Not because you're better than anyone, but because God is taking you to a new level. Some friendships won't fit where God is leading you. Some habits won't align with who you're becoming. Some conversations won't feed your spirit anymore. And that's okay. That's a sign of growth. Because when God is elevating you, He removes what no longer serves His purpose in your life. So if you find yourself growing, if you're thinking differently, responding differently, healing from things that once broke you, know that this is not by accident. This is God's hand on your life. This is evidence that you are walking in the right direction. Growth is not always easy, it's not always pretty, but it's necessary. And when God is leading you, every challenge, every lesson, every moment of stretching is shaping you into the person He created you to be. So now you know the signs. You know how to recognize when God is leading you on the right path. But here's the thing. Knowing the signs is not enough. You have to trust them. You have to believe that when God speaks, He means what He says. You have to have the faith to follow, even when the road ahead isn't clear. Because let me tell you something, God does not make mistakes. He doesn't lead you halfway and then abandon you. He doesn't open doors just to close them for no reason. When He directs your steps, it's because He has a plan bigger than anything you could ever imagine. But you have to trust Him enough to walk in it. You have to trust Him enough to let go of what's behind you and step boldly into what's ahead. And I get it. Following God's path isn't always easy. Sometimes it requires sacrifice. Sometimes it requires walking away from things you once thought you needed. Sometimes it requires standing alone. But I promise you this. What God has for you is always greater than what you leave behind. The peace, the purpose, the fulfillment that comes from walking in His will, nothing in this world can compare to that. So if you've been wondering, am I on the right path? If you've been doubting, if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. This is your confirmation. You didn't stumble across this message by accident. God is speaking to you right now, telling you, keep going, keep trusting, keep believing. Because where He's taking you, it's beyond anything you could ask, think, or imagine. Don't be afraid to step into it. Don't let fear keep you stuck. Don't let doubt hold you back. Walk boldly, walk with faith, walk knowing that the God who started this journey with you will see it through to the end. And when you look back, when you see how far He's brought you, when you see how He connected the dots, how He turned every setback into a setup, how He used every trial to make you stronger, you'll realize something. You were never lost. You were never alone. You were always being led. Now go, walk in your purpose, walk in your calling, walk in confidence, knowing that you are exactly where you're meant to be. Because when God is leading, you will never be lost.